Hi friends, welcome once again. Friends, we are talking about the cost of capital, and in the last video we have covered the cost of debentures or bonds or borrowed capital. We have seen the computation and we have also seen the concept as well. In this video we are going to talk about the cost of preference capital. Okay? Cost of preference capital. So friends, as I have already told you in the last lecture that preference capital and borrowed capital, they are different because the borrowed capital, that is debentures, they generally receive interest, whereas preference capital, they receive dividends. Right. Also, from the risk perspective, the borrowed capital or the debentures are more safer, or you can say they are less risky as compared to the preference share capital. Now, friends. The preference capital, they are expecting dividend from the company, and that expected dividend becomes the basis for computation of KP, that is the preference cost of preference capital. If you remember, when we have done cost of debt, we have written KD is equals to, so here we will write KP is equals to, now I will have two situations. One is perpetual, as we had in our cost of debt. If the capital is perpetual, means it is everlasting, it is not to be repaid, it will remain in the business lifelong, then this is called perpetual preference capital. Then the cost of preference capital, if it is perpetual, is equals to D. D means how much the dividend this preference capital is expected, divided by dividend divided by P0. How much is the expected price of this preference dividend? 1 minus flotation charge. So what it is? It is how much dividend this particular preference capital will pay, divided by the price of this, expected price of this preference capital, and we have to deduct the flotation charge from this. Okay, so this becomes the cost of preference capital. Now friends, when we have done the cost of debt, that time I told you there is a tax advantage, right? Whenever we are raising funds through borrowed funds, we are getting an advantage because it is tax deductible. The interest is tax deductible. That means when you are paying tax, the amount of tax reduces if you are paying interest. But this is not so in case of preference capital, because the dividend is not tax deductible. It is an appropriation of profits, right? So what we will do here, rather we have to pay tax 1 plus T divided by P0 into 1 minus flotation cost. So this happens to be the cost of preference capital if the preference share capital is perpetual. Let's take up a case and understand how to solve this. So friends, we have a question here that a company issues 14% preference capital of face value rupees 100 each. Okay. Flotation cost is 5% of the face value. Find the cost of preference capital when issued at par, issued at premium of 10%, issued at discount of 5%, and the dividend tax in all the cases is 10%. Very easy. Let's take up case A. If it is case A, KP is equal to, we'll take this. What is the dividend per share? 14% of 100. So dividend per share is 40. 1 plus tax on dividend is how much? Dividend tax is 10%. So 1 plus 0.10 divided by what is its expected selling price? The expected selling price or the face value is 100. P0 is 100. But there is a flotation cost of 5%. So 100 minus 5% will be 95. Because we have to do 1 minus flotation cost. So you can show it separately also. You can show it this way, that 100 is the face value times 1 minus flotation cost is how much? 0.05. So how much is the value? You will get what is the cost of preference capital. Same is the case when you are doing it at premium. So your dividend is 14 plus 0.10 divided by, now it is issued at a premium of 10%. So 100 rupees will become 110. 1 minus 0.05. Then comes the third case, that is KP is equals to 14 into 1 plus 0.10 divided by, what is it issued at? 5% discount. So 95 into 1 minus 0.05. So this way you are going to get the values of KP. Let's find out. So friends, I calculated the values. It comes to 16.2, 14.7 and 17.1% respectively. Okay. So this is very easy if the capital is perpetual in nature. Let's take out the second case when the capital is redeemable. When the perpetual, it's no longer perpetual, it is redeemed or repaid after a period of time. Let's do it. It is same as the cost of debt with a little difference, but overall the calculations are same. So friends, let's take up the case 2, that is redeemable. Case B, that is redeemable preference capital. Redeemable preference capital. If the preference capital is redeemable, so what does this mean? Means after a period it will be repaid. It is same as how we have done the cost of borrowed fund or debentures. So what it is, you have a cash, see, you have a cash inflow here because you have issued capital, and there will be cash outflow in some, after some n number of years you are going to outflow, means you are going to repay the, but every year you are paying some dividend. You are paying dividend, dividend, dividend. So you see there is one inflow and there are multiple outflow in the consecutive years. Now how to calculate the KP? How to calculate KP? So it's same as how we have done in case of borrowed capital. What we will do? Cash inflow at 0 should be equal to cash outflows for all the period divided by 1 plus Kp to the power T. Okay, that means for all the years you are having outflow, you are discounting, plus at the end of the year you are paying the principal COP. At the nth year, this is COI, means interest, divided by 1 plus Kp to the power n. This is what we have seen in the last time also. Let me explain again in this video what we are doing. This is our inflow, how much we got while issuing this capital. But since you have issued, every time you have to pay something, it is outflow, COI. And the last year you have to pay the principal. This is interest outflow, this is principal outflow. Interest outflow will last for many years, but principal outflow will be at the last year. Whatever outflows are taking place has to be discounted to know its present value. And I discount with this factor, I discount this also with this factor. Now this is known, this is known, this is known, but this factor is not known. If this factor is known, then we can find out what is Kp. Now the question is how to know this factor, right? So friends, let's see what is CIO, means what is the cash inflow. Cash inflow is how much you received. Let's take help of this sum. That is, a company issues 14% preference capital of face value rupees 100 each, redeemable after 10 years. Means our capital will be redeemed after 10 years. Flotation cost is 5%, find Kp. Okay. So what is our inflow here? Our inflow is how much we have issued. That means the face value of the share is 100. So our inflow is 100 and there is flotation cost of 5%. So 100 minus 5% of this is 5, that is equals to 95 is our cash inflow. Now what is our outflows? This is sum of all the outflows. I is equals to 1 to T. Okay. Now what are our outflows? Outflows are all the installments. So let us see that what would be the sum of all the installments. So friends, as you can understand, it says that 14% of 100. Okay. A company issued preference capital of face value 100. So how much is the dividend? Here cash outflow is the dividend. Okay. So what is our dividend? 14% of 100. Right. So our dividend will be 14 rupees. But there is no taxation on the dividend. So let's ignore the tax part. Divided by 1 plus Kp to the power T. Friends, it will not be I. So we can write T 1 to n, means it will range from the first year to the nth year. Okay, and this will be it's again t is equals to the first year to the nth year. So this will be cash outflow. What is that cash outflow? It is the dividend. How much dividend it is getting? 14% of 100 rupees. So it will be 14, and this 14 14 14 we will receive, we will pay for 10 years. So it will last for 10 years. So I don't have to write here t, I can write here 10. I don't have to write here n, I can write here 10. So it will last for 10 years. Okay. Plus, at the end what we are giving is the face value. What was the face value? 100 rupees and redeemable after 10 years. So it's not written whether it is redeemable at premium or discount. So let's assume that it is redeemable at face value. So it will be 100 rupees divided by 1 plus kp to the power 10, because on the 10th year we are going to repay it. Okay friends, so here we are going to get the discounted value. This is the discounted value of all the dividends that we are going to pay for the next 10 years, and this is the discount value of the redeemable amount. What is redeemable amount? It is 100 at the end of the 10th year. This is for 10 years, it is the 10th year. Now how to do? So remember, this side plus this side should be equal to 95. So how we are concerned about knowing KP. How can we know KP? We can know KP only when we can find out what is this factor which makes both the sides equal. Okay, if we can identify the factor which can make both the sides equal, then I can say KP is that much. Right friends? So as you can see, this is the sum of money 14 rupees that you are going to pay for 10 years. So it is a case of annuity, right? So just like as we did in the cost of debt, same is the case here also. Let's see how to solve this and find out KP. So first we will write here present. I'll just try to take some more space from here. So what we can do is that we can find out KP, not KP, sorry. We have to find out for next 1 to 10 years. What we are going to pay? We are going to pay 14 rupees. Right? What is the present value of annuity? We have to find out, because as we are paying for all the years the same amount of money, so we will refer to the present value of annuity. Okay, present value factor for annuity. Okay, so we can for simplification we can write present value factor of annuity. So we have to find out for present value factor of annuity, two things have to be identified. One is years, for how many years. Another is the discounting rate, or you can say the interest rate. But friends, in our case we know the years, it is for 10 years. But we don't know what is the discounting rate. Had we been knowing, then we know already KP. But since we don't know the discount rate, so we will start with some assumption, because this is a trial and error method. We will first follow the trial and error method. So as per trial and error method, as we have seen in the last case, we will first try to take up any percentage and find out what is the present value factor of annuity, and then we will do the other calculations. So let's find out for which percentage we should discount, so that we feel that it will equate to 95 rupees. It will equate to 95 rupees. Let's see. Okay, so friends, I have done the calculations to save the time, but please understand that 14 rupees we are getting from 1 to 10th year. Present value factor of annuity will start with 14%. I found out the value is 5.216 from the table. From the table you will find out what is the factor, 5.216. 5.216 multiply with this will be this much, right? Then we will, at the 10th year, what we are finding? 10th year we have to pay 100 rupees. So this time I will see, you ignored this part. Please try to concentrate on column 1 and column 2. In column 1 and column 2 we are trying to test with 14%. First we have done the annuity, because 14 every year we are giving, and then we will start with the ordinary present value, that is the 10th year 100 rupees. What is the factor? This is the factor. When you multiply you get this much. So when you add these two you get 100. That means we wanted to get 95, but this side we are getting 100. That means this factor is not appropriate, not perfect. So if you get 95 this side and this side 100, that means that these two sides are not equal. In order to equate, that means what we have to do? We have to reduce this value. In order to reduce this value, we have to discount with a higher factor. So I tried with 15%. So with 15%, the factor is 5.019 here, and the present value factor is 0.247 here. So you multiply this with 14, you get 70.30. You multiply this with 100, you get 24.70. So when you add these two, it comes exactly 95. So what is our conclusion? That 15% is the cost of preference capital. So 15% KP is equals to 15%. So friends, that's how we calculate the cost of preference capital. Conceptually, you have to be very clear. Whenever you are raising funds through preference capital, you have to pay the dividends, and end of the tenure you have to repay the principal. As you pay the dividends, so all the dividends are to be discounted with a factor, and that is the factor we are looking for. So this side should be equal to this side. For how much you have received should be equal to how much you are paying, outflow and inflow and outflow. But what is that rate which will make both the sides equal? The rate at which both the sides will be equal is actually 15%. How we identify? We tried to discount it with 14%, but it was not perfect. It did not come exact. Then we tried with a higher rate, so we got 95, right? So this 14 and 15% is something that you have to try from your hunch, from your guesswork, and that is why this is called trial and error method. Friends, there is a shortcut method. For that, please do watch the previous video where we have discussed about the cost of debt. It is same as that will make the calculation simpler. So that's all friends about the cost of preference capital. We will meet again in the next video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.